Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to bring you a guide on Black Clover Mobile. Now, it has been a really long time since I've done another video on this. For those of you who don't know, I used to play this game on the JP server when it first came out. Played for about 2-3 months and created a bit of content for it, mainly on PvP because I managed to hit rank 1 as a free to play in like the second week when it first got launched. So I done quite a bit of guides on how to actually reach that. But in all honesty, a lot of things changed back in comparison to back then. So I'm not sure how valid they are nowadays. But yeah, anyway, so I created a few videos back then. It didn't get too much attention or views, so I thought it's probably not worth the effort of actually creating content on it. But then with the release of Global, a lot of my videos, old videos, actually got more attention now, like got way more views and likes in the last week in comparison to, the first 5 months since I have actually released the video, which is quite impressive. So I was like, okay, maybe there's demand for this type of guides again. So I'm gonna try once again, create some content for Black Hole Mobile. I'm not sure. I haven't fully committed whether I want to do this, regularly, but I'm just going to start off with just making a few guides every now and then and just try to see what are people's reaction to it. If you do find it useful, then obviously like and comment. So, let me know this is actually helpful to you guys and I'll continue to make more. And obviously, if you do actually have some ideas in your head about what you see, what type of videos, then do let me know as well, and I will try to cover them as I go along. Okay, so anyway, back to the main topic. Today's video, I'm going to try to cover this raid boss, which is should I try to pronounce it? Betelgigas? Betelgigas? I'm gonna say Betelgigas. But basically, yeah, this raid boss. I have managed to be part six, auto part six. In fact, I'm gonna show you a demo in the end. And all of this is done as a free to play. So let me show you if you do need any evidence. First purchase, nothing is done. So you can see I didn't pay anything. Mileage, you can see absolute zero here, so didn't pay anything at all. And yeah, so definitely doable as a free to play. If you have the right character and also the right tactics, which I'll go through. And like I said, you can actually auto this on part six. Now, for the exchange center, the main one you want is this first home mage piece, which you can actually get if you just do stage 4 every single day. But there are actually some other nice stuff here. For example, the stamina, which you can buy every day, and also this gear food. So because of those, you do want to go as high as possible. And also, I do feel altering is quite useful. I'm not too sure what this quick battle actually means. Maybe you are then able to skip it afterwards. I'm not too sure. Well, I've actually no. I think I was there in JP when they first released this. I think you have to beat it once per day and then you can skip the other two, I think. But yeah, anyway, what that basically means is rather than just sitting there and hoping for luck or RNG and actually just manually play that, which could take a lot of time, it'd be much easier if you can actually have a team which can actually auto it. And that's kind of why I decided to do this video, just to show you guys how to actually auto stage 6 as a free to play. Now, most of you should already know how this raid works, but I'll just give a bit of background context anyway. Basically, there are two phases. You need to beat both of them. The first one is a boss with a blue element or faction. The second one is a red boss. You can see their skills here, etc. But the main takeaway, I guess, is that the first boss is able to do an extra attack if you do not have a barrier. So if you do have the likes of Radis or the SR Noel, that'd be really good. Do bring them onto a team. I didn't need to use any of them, so I will show you a way of how to do it without them. But if you do have them, it will make it easier. For the second boss, this is a lot trickier. Basically, he does insane amount of damage, but if you actually look at his passive, what's gonna happen is that after his first two attacks, he's going to enter a state called exhaustion. And basically, when that happens, he will be taking 50% increased damage. And it only lasts for one turn. And when that finished, then he will go back to berserk. So, and basically, the main idea here is that you want to nuke the boss after his first two attacks. So when you see that he is under this kind of status effect, where he will be taking 50% extra damage, that's when you want to do as much damage as possible to kind of just nuke the enemy and just take him down in one shot. will try to do as much damage as you can during that time. But that's basically how you want to get by the second boss. Now, in terms of the lineup for them, if I go into here, so this is my lineup. You can see my I don't think this is the actual power because I changed my gears afterwards. But basically, the main thing you want to do is you want to have a very high, almost like a full LR set. I think I had uh, all but one of my pieces on my blue Yami was LR, so I think I had like five LR pieces, was six LR pieces and one UR pieces, and that's kind of what you need. Or on attack stats, basically you really want to nuke the enemy when he's in that status effect. So that's basically what you need, and that's pretty much the main requirement you need on the team. There are some other soft requirements. For example, it needs to be sufficiently high enough level so that the enemy doesn't one shot you, etc. But you can see the power level, I have 144 for the first one and 155 for the second one. My levels are not crazy high either. You can see I only have one level 100 character. The rest are all floating either around 90 something, or some of the ones are only level 80 as well. So you can definitely get by if you have the right strategy, even if you're under level. Now, in terms of the first team, basically the main strategy you want to do here is utilizing Lotus to inflict a slow loop. Basically, for those of you who don't know, his special skill is able to have an RNG chance of inflicting slow, whereas his skill 2 have the ability of extending that debuff. Now, obviously, if you're actually able to land slow and then you extend the debuff, it becomes from a turn of 2 into a turn of 3, I think. And also because his cooldown is only for his skill 2 is only 2 turns, and you're able to extend it to 3 turns. Basically, what that means is you are able to go on an infinite loop where you'll be slowing down the boss enemy forever. So that's kind of why Lotus is great for any boss battle, and that's kind of the reason why I chose to use Lotus in my team one. Now, if you're able to actually spare him from team one and use him for team two, that'd be even better. Because he does have the elemental advantage as well, because the second boss is red, whereas Lotus is blue. The only problem is that Lotus special skill is only RNG chance, I think a 40 or 50% chance of slowing down the enemy, and you really need to land that slow for it to work. And just a bit annoying for you to finish off the phase one, go into phase two, then turns out you actually didn't slow the enemy, and therefore you need to restart the whole battle from phase one again. It's just really annoying. So that's kind of why I chose to use Lotus for phase one instead of phase two. But he would definitely be a really good candidate for phase two as well. And also, if you do happen to have Mars, I definitely recommend you do use Lotus and Mars for phase two instead, because with Mars combo skill, Lotus is then actually able to land slow down 100% of the time, and that actually becomes a lot better, and you don't need to play with the RNG chance anymore. So yeah, if you do have Mars, then move Lotus to a phase two, but otherwise Lotus can be in phase one. Then the next main character you need is Mimosa. Mimosa just dead for healing yourself up, because yes, Lotus can slow down the boss forever and doing some like chip damage. You still need to heal yourself up, so you definitely need a good healer. Mimosa being green, etc., is just really good here. And then those two are kind of what you really need in order for this to work. And to be honest, those are the only two you kind of need for it to work, provided your skills and your levels are high enough. But I like to bring a safety cushion, and my safety cushion is going to be Finro. The reason why Finro is a safety cushion is because this boss actually do have a special skill where he is able to grant an increased speed, and also because he is able to do extra attack. What that means is every now and then he is potentially able to break out of your slow loop, because he will be first of all speeding himself up in order to counter your slow, and then because he can do 2 attacks rather than one, his turn would pass by a lot quicker, and therefore by the time you're able to try to extend the debuff, the slow may have already been gone because the enemy took way too many turns, etc. So that's kind of why it can be annoying, and having Finro in your team just help to counter that and provide a safety cushion to make sure the boss is always going to be on infinite slow loop, etc. You can also use Valtos instead, and Valtos being green may actually work better. The only thing with Valtos is I think if you do play Valtos, you may have to manual it instead, because what Valtos does is mobility increase, And I'm not too sure. I could be wrong here, but I'm not sure what happens if your mobility goes above 100%, whether it resets to zero or whether you retain kind of the part that has been exceeded. Because if it doesn't retain, then you really theoretically only want to use photos on your characters when, for example, your lotus just taken turn, so you can maximize the effect of it and not let any extra mobility go to waste. So you may have to manually play voters if that's the case. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, certainly if you do have voters, I think voters will work just as good, and that can actually free up your funeral for phase two, which is also very nice actually. Now that I think about it. But yeah, so basically those three are kind of what you need. Lotus, one healer, and one speed up unit. This slot, the fourth slot, you can literally bring whoever you want. I bought Asta, but Asta actually have a color disadvantage here, and I'm pretty sure he dies sometimes quite early on as well. So you can literally just put whoever you want. I only think Lotus, Mimosa, and also Finro, just the three of them, is enough to actually kill off the boss. Obviously, do actually bring a fourth character in just so the process is not too painful and you actually have to sit there for a really long time for it to auto clear phase one. So do bring someone for the fourth slot, but honestly, I think anyone would do. Now for phase two, it's a bit more tricky. Now, like I said, you really want to nuke the enemy in one go, and that's basically you want to have your blue Yami doing maximum amount of damage if possible. Now, I'm not too sure whether Charmy is needed for you guys. I kind of need it because I'm going for all attack build on my blue Yami, and that basically makes him extremely fragile. And if I don't have Charmy to actually heal up my blue Yami in the middle, blue Yami normally dies from the burn damage every now and then. So it's up to you. If you do actually have enough defensive capability on your DPS, on your blue DPS, then you don't actually need a healer here. And in that case, you bring another buffer, such as Finra, for example. But yeah, it's up to you whether you need this charming spot. But I do feel William, Charlotte, and Yami are important. They can be replaced by other characters. I know William can potentially be a bit difficult to get because that is another SSR character. But everyone else, as you can see, should be fairly easy to replicate. I have three seasonal characters, so hopefully you should be able to have them. You don't even need Asta, so really the only two seasonal characters you need is Mimosa and Blue Yami, which I'm sure a lot of you would have, because they are the better two out of the three seasonals. You also have Lotus, who I'm pretty sure most people would have picked as your guaranteed selection, and also Finro, that's an SR character. Charlotte, you get for free. Charmy, that's another SR character. So the only tricky one that you can potentially fail to get would be William, but I will talk about some replacement options here. Now, so the way I set up my auto, and this is definitely the way you want to do it, is that the enemy boss is going to attack first. What you don't want to do is make sure the enemy doesn't kill you with his two attacks. Now, your William and Charlotte should be moving fast enough to standing in the middle, will at least kind of guarantee you some kind of debuff or buff before the enemy boss third attack, and that's really important. And that's kind of why for the first choice of their attacks, what you want to do is you want to set William into his special skill, which basically give you uh, buff up, fortify, and reduce the damage will be taken. And also, Charlotte's special skill would reduce the enemy boss attack, and therefore that provides you that safety net to make sure your blue Yami wouldn't die too early. That's kind of why I done them for turn one. For turn two, you want to use your debuff skill for to do more damage. So on Charlotte, this will be your skill 2, where you're able to reduce defense on the enemy, and also for William, because you will be then speeding up your Yami, and therefore Yami do more attack on skill 2. Now, in terms of your DPS itself, what is very important is that you set your Blue Yami to use his normal attack on the first turn. Now, it's your choice on whether you want to do normal attack or skill 2, but I did check the stats. Unless you have leveled up skill 2 massively, otherwise skill 1 do more damage than skill 2. So in which case, you definitely want to use skill 1 first. And the reason why you want to do this first is because the enemy does not go into exhaustion mode by the time you do your first attack. So if you actually use a special skill on your first turn, what's going to do is that you're not going to benefit from that 50% extra damage. And also at the same time, because I have set my William to only buff up my blue Yami on the second turn, if I actually once again use it on the first turn, I'm not going to benefit from anything. So that's kind of why it's very important for you to use your normal attack with skill 1 on the first turn. And then once the enemy boss is in that exhaustion state where he will take 50% extra damage, and you are benefiting from the extra attacking buff, and the enemy is suffering from Charlotte's defense down debuff, all three of those things all together, that's when you then use Blue Yami's special skill and trying to one-shot the enemy. And this is basically how you should set up your team in order to auto phase 2. And if you actually do this correctly, your special skill should be able to either do massive amount of damage, or just one shot the boss completely. Now for stage 5, I'm pretty sure you are able to one shot. For stage 6, it was a bit trickier, and I actually had to try quite a few times to make sure I get crit. Um, to make sure I actually get a crit attack on my special skill to actually do enough for me to actually clear the stage. So it's definitely a lot harder. But if you do actually have better gear stats, etc., or higher dupes, obviously harder for free to play. But if you are well, then you can definitely do this a lot easier without even needing that crit. But for free to play, you probably do have to try a few times with that crit. But once again, the benefit is that because you can just set this into auto, it doesn't really take you much time. You just set it on auto, go make yourself a cup of tea and then come back. If it doesn't work, then just set it to auto. Do something else, come back. If it doesn't work, set it to auto and just retrying like that. And eventually it would work. So, it should still be straightforward. Most of the time, I think, I'm not sure, once again, depending on how you build your character, but crit chances normally something like 20-25%. Once again, if you have better gears with substats, etc., it might be easier. So most of the time, you should be able to get this all done after 5 or 6 tries on auto. Okay, so this is how I have managed done it. Now, in terms of replacement options, now for phase 1, like I said, instead of Finro, you can use photos instead. So once again, another budget option, and you can literally use whoever you want instead of Asta. So this one should be fairly easy to replicate. For phase 2, Charmy, Yami, Charlotte, all easy to get. For the fourth character, here's the tricky one. So basically, William plays two very important roles. One is reducing how much damage you'll be taking. Two is buffing up Blue Yami, so you're able to do more damage. Now, if you don't have William, it will be harder, I'm not gonna lie. But you just need to take a look and to see what is the reason why you lost the battle. If you lost the battle because you died too quickly, then what you want to do is you want to bring another either debuffer or tank or buffer, etc., who is able to reduce the amount of damage you take. So, for example, if you do have Mars, if you have Soul, for example, to taunt. Actually, I'm not sure whether it's an AoE. No, it's an AoE attack, so I'm not sure Soul would work. But maybe Soul would have another attack, which is like reducing enemies' attack points, etc. But basically, yeah, just bring someone else who's able to reduce the enemy's attack, and that could work for you, just to reduce the amount of damage you would be taking. The other option is that if you find out the reason why you're losing is not actually because you can't survive, is that you're not able to do enough damage in order to nuke the enemy before enemy's exhaustion is then finished, then what you need to do is rather than Venom, you need to bring a buffer instead. Now, if you are able to free up Finro from your phase 1 because you use Voltos instead, or because you, let's say, have actual green DPS so that you're able to free up Lotus as well. Lotus will be amazing in phase 2, like I mentioned earlier. But yeah, if you do have a green DPS, swap out Lotus for that green DPS, and then in phase 2 you can use Lotus instead. But for whatever reason, let's say you don't have green DPS, you have forced to use Lotus, then at least swap out Finro for Valtos in your phase 1, and then use Finro in your phase 2 instead, and use Finro skill 2 rather than speed up. Oh, actually, I'm trying to say, no, you speed up first, and then you speed skill 2 in order to buff out the attack. Once again, it's going to be the same kind of thing. You speed up your speed so that you're able to do that more attack, so you're able to attack more times before the enemy is able to respond, and you use your skill 2 to increase your attack, which is very important for your blue Yami to do more damage as well. So Finro would be a very, very good replacement for Venom, provided your Finro doesn't get one shot. Finro is quite fragile, so you do have to be wary of that. You may have to give him some like defense gears, etc., to make sure he survives. But that would be also able to work. If you still are not able to spare out Finro, for what reason? Because let's say if you're similar to me, you don't have Valtos built out, and you have to use Finro in your phase one, for example. Then the only other option I can think of for phase two would be one R character, which is Max. I think that's his name. The Junius Butler, the guy with green hair. I think the let me get this person out. Uh, so I don't say anything stupid. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, it's called Max. He would also work as a substitute, but I'm not sure whether you want to build him up just for one raid event. Even though I think the raid event do come back in the future. But basically, he also works as a substitute because of his ability to first of all reduce attack on one enemy using special skills. So that's very similar to what you can get from your Williams special skill to reduce how much damage you're taking. And then his skill 2 is not able to give you more attack, but it's able to increase crit rate. And that may actually be enough for you because, like I said, sometimes you do have to retry just to make sure you actually land the crit. And also, this is a crit rate increase for all of your allies. So if all of your other characters is actually able to do crits instead of just a normal attack, then potentially that would be enough damage for you to actually take out the boss. So yeah, so Max could be another budget substitute if you don't have William. But like I said, it may not actually be worth it just to build up one R character just for this purpose. Up to you on how much you actually want to be this raid boss. But yeah, so this would be my guide on how to actually auto as a free to play to beat stage 6. Now I know stage 7 is going to be out tomorrow, but if you look at the power difference, I don't think I'll be able to beat it. So I'm not going to create another video on it. Maybe some whales are able to do it if you actually spend a lot, but I definitely do feel like part 7 is out of option for free to play. So yeah, so I'm not going to be covering that. But okay, I'll play you the demo of how I cleared it. I won't be making any commentary because everything was on auto, so it should be fairly self-explanatory. I already talked about everything beforehand. But yeah, so do watch that if you want to, just see how it actually played out, or maybe compare damage output, just to know how far you are in comparison, and whether you will actually be able to do it or not. But yeah, so that's the video today. If you find this type of content actually useful, then do let me know in the comment section. And yeah, like I said, I greatly appreciate if you do like and subscribe to let me know that you guys actually enjoy this. So that will give me more motivation to make more content on this in future.